everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. Obviously, this tag is such a staple on BookTube, everyone's been doing it, and now, better late than never, I'm gonna do it. Before I jump into answering the questions, which basically take a look at your reading years so far, I wanted to talk about my reading just a bit more generally. So I definitely haven't been reading as much in terms of quantity as I have in previous years. And I think, there's lots of different reasons for this. I think my life external to reading is busier than it's ever been. Spending time with the people I live with, meeting up with friends, work is super busy. I'm in a sort of new-ish relationship. So kind of finding the time to read hasn't been as easy or as sort of seamless as it has been in previous years. And I think it's particularly worth noting when I say in previous years, I do also have kind of thoughts of the lockdown and pandemic times when I think about that. And I'm have had to realize that I shouldn't be comparing the pace I'm reading at now to the pace I was reading at a couple of years ago, because a couple of years ago there was nothing else happening. And I think it has taken me this kind of 2 years to come to terms with that and be look, your life is better for having this smaller amount of time to read. However, I have more access than ever before in terms of getting my hands on new books. So I have a lot more financial stability than I've had in previous years. So I'm able to buy a lot more books new and pre-order books in a way that I wasn't really able to before. And also, getting books as gifts, also finding books secondhand and that kind of thing. I have been acquiring a lot of books, and I was acquiring at a pace which matched up with the volume of books I was reading a couple of years ago, but certainly does not match up with the pace with which I'm reading now. So that's something that is a problem that I've just kind of let get out of hand. And is it really a problem? Is just having a lot of books, is that really a problem? And it's not just the books that I'm buying myself or being gifted. There's also a lot of books that I'm reading for work. I really try to read as many of the books that we publish as I can. Many years ago as well, I also got into this routine with my mom when she was maybe coming over to visit me in previous places that I've lived, or I was going home, where I would take all of the books that I had read recently, or she would collect all of the books that I'd read recently, because neither of us really needed to travel with a lot of stuff for just a few days. So we would have a lot of space in our luggage to bring books back over to my mom's house, and I would store the books that I had finished reading at her house. And there are a lot of books stored there from previous years, but from the past couple of years, all of the books that I have been reading and I haven't decided to get rid of are on my shelves. So I kind of have more books with me here in the UK than I ever have before, which isn't really a problem necessarily until it comes to me moving house, and it's just quite a few more boxes to deal with. But I think it's just really hammered home the number of books that I have, because before it was very much kind of out of sight, out of mind, because the majority of my collection was at my mom's house, and now it's maybe more 50-50 maybe. But yeah, basically I'm getting a lot of books and I'm reading fewer books than I have previously, but I'm still reading a lot. Compared to your average reader, I think I'm still reading a lot. And in terms of how much I've enjoyed the books I'm reading, it has been a mostly 3 to 4 star year. There were only 5 books that I gave 5 stars to, but I have a real good feeling about the second half of the year. I think there's gonna be some absolute bangers in the second half of the year. Anyway, I've gone on for ages. Let's look at the questions in this tag. The first of which is, what is your favorite book of the year so far? This is an easy one for me. So I did do a full video talking about my favorite books of the year so far, which I will leave linked down below in the description and in the cards if you want to check that out and then come back to this video. But if you just want to know what my favorite book of the year so far is, it's You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. There are so many things that I absolutely loved about this book. There is sizzling sexual tension. There are nuanced, flawed, complicated characters. There's a main character that you really want to root for. There is excellent representation of bisexuality. And there's a really tender depiction of learning to love again after experiences of grief. I spoke about this in a lot more detail in my favorite books of the year video, so do check that one out if you haven't already and you want to hear me talk about this one more. But it is absolutely easily the favorite book that I read in the first 6 months of the year. The best sequel that I've read so far this year. Now there are pretty slim pickings for this because I'm not a big series reader. There are a lot of series that I started this year, and a lot of those are like books that I'm reading for work, and they're like the first book in a new series that we're publishing. So in terms of like sequels, there wasn't a lot for me to choose from. So this is kind of the answer by default, but it is a book that I really loved. So Every Gift a Curse by Caroline O'Donoghue. This is one of my favorite authors of all time. I'm reading her new adult fiction book, The Rachel Incident, at the minute. And I think that could be a contender for my favorite book in a few months' time when we look at the year as a whole. But this is the third book in Caroline O'Donoghue's young adult series that is about kind of like witches and tarot and sexuality, and it's very Irish. I really enjoy this series, although I haven't enjoyed the sequels as much as I enjoyed the first book. Like the first book I absolutely loved. There was so much in there that was just ticking boxes everywhere for me. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And as we've got further into the series, I have enjoyed it less. So the third book in this series was actually my least favorite book of the trilogy. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, like I definitely did, but as it gets more into the kind of action-packed fantasy as this one does, it does become like less for me. I love Maeve as a main character. I think she's absolutely fantastic. All of the friendships and romantic relationship that she has, like all of those connections that she has, they just feel really authentic to me. I really believe those relationships, and the complications of all of the things that she is feeling feel really true to life to me. And the witchy tarot Irish vibes is just chef's kiss. New release that you haven't read yet but would really like to. Oh my god, there are so many. Like literally, there are so many books that have come out recently that are behind me on the shelves that I really want to read, like Rootless, The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson. I really want to read Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater. I really want to read Pre-Loved by Lauren Bravo. Lots of books that I still need to read. My most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Again, there are so many. So I really want to read The Situationship, which I think comes out in October. Dolly Alderton has a new book coming out. There is a female football romance called The Cleat Cute that is coming out that I really want to read. There's The Undetectables by Courtney Smith, which I'm really keen to read. And of course, it's Britney bitch. The next question is your biggest disappointment of the year, and I don't want to dwell on these ones for like too long because I don't want to bring like the negative energy. I was really disappointed by Begin Again by Emma Lord because I thought the concept of it sounded like super fun, and I love a young adult book that is set at a college rather than a high school. But I just found it like a little bit ridiculous and like unbelievable, and I'm totally cool with like suspending my disbelief when it comes to romance just for like the gimmick. But it just felt really silly to me, and all of the writing felt like really obvious. Like I feel like the author was trying to get across this message of like, you don't need to follow in your parents' footsteps, you can forge your own path, and like it was really like hitting us over the head with it. And I do have 3 of this author's other books on my shelf, which I do want to give them a go, but it's just made me like a little bit nervous going into them. And I was also really sadly disappointed by A Million to One by Adiba Jagadar. So this is one of my most anticipated releases of the years. I pre-ordered it, and this is a young adult heist novel that is set on the Titanic, focusing on like 4 young women. Adiba Jagadar is one of my favourite young adult authors. One of her books was a group read for the Irish Readathon a couple of years ago. I recommend Hanny and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating all of the time. And this just really fell flat for me in the same sort of way that it just didn't feel plausible. None of the characters felt like super fleshed out for me in the way that I had grown used to from this author. So this was a really big disappointment for me. And that kind of leads me into the next question, which is biggest surprise. So I kind of went into the do's and donuts of love feeling like a little bit nervous, like a bit unsure. Like I was really worried that I was going to be disappointed by this one as well. And I'm so glad that I was wrong and that I really enjoyed this. So in some ways it was a surprise because I was disappointed by A Million to One, but in other ways it really wasn't a surprise because I had loved 2 other books from this author. Another book that I was really pleasantly surprised by was Once, Twice and Three Times an Aisling. And don't get me wrong, like I did not love this book, but I was worried that I was really going to dislike it. So the Aisling series is about your kind of stereotypical kind of Irish woman on the cusp of her 30s, living in like a small town drama, small town celebrity, like that kind of vibe. The first book in this series I thought was a lot of fun, and it also dealt with some really important topics. The second book in the series I honestly could not tell you a single thing about it. Like, I don't really remember anything about it. So I was really quite unsure going into the third book. Like, I thought, oh, maybe I will really dislike this. But you know what? I thought it was a lot of fun. I read it while I was on holiday, and maybe that kind of setting helped. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this. It was just like a lot of fun, small town drama. There's a wedding to plan. So this has made me a lot more enthusiastic to get around to reading the fourth book as well. The next question is your newest favorite author, and honestly, I'm not sure I have an answer for this. I think in this year, more so than any of my previous reading years, I'm reading books from authors that I have read a book from before, so they're not like new authors to me. And any of the authors that were new to me, like, I haven't read more than one book from, so it's like difficult to say that they're like a new favorite author. But there are definitely authors that I discovered this year that I do want to read more from. So like Catherine Prasivka, who wrote None of This Is Serious, Lizzie O'Hagan, who wrote The Visa, Kaylin Bayron, who wrote Cinderella is Dead. Like, they're all authors that I'm really keen to read more from, but I'm not sure I can say that they're like a new favorite author until I read more than one book from them. Newest fictional crush, that is definitely Delilah Green from Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I've spoken about this book a lot recently, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but Delilah is just like, she's really edgy and really hot. She's a photographer and I want her to take photos of me. I feel like she's just also like much cooler than I am, so it's definitely like a crush. The next question is newest favorite character, and I thought about this one for quite a while because there wasn't like an immediate character that stood out to me as being a new favorite. I think if you are someone that reads like series and you are getting like multiple books that feature the same character, it's easier to kind of think of who your new favorite character might be. But I have actually decided on Rooney from Loveless by Alice Oseman. So Rooney is our main character's like new roommate, and there was just so many things about Rooney that I kind of connected to, and so many ways where I felt like my younger self really connected to her. Like, she was someone that was figuring out her sexuality, someone who is like really well intentioned, but sometimes like her enthusiasm gets in the way of her actually being helpful and being thoughtful. She is like super extroverted, but sometimes that's actually her using it as like a mask because she doesn't want to be vulnerable with her feelings. I just felt like Rooney was someone that my younger self would really connect with. A book that made me cry. Now, I don't really cry at books. It's not really something that happens. And I haven't cried at a book so far this year, I don't think. But one book that I definitely had like a real emotional connection to, and it had an emotional impact on me, was The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. This was another one that I spoke about in my favorite books of the year, so again, won't talk about it too much. But this is about the 5 women, Polly, Annie, Elizabeth, Catherine, and Mary Jane, who were murdered by Jack the Ripper in 1888. And I did find this book so emotionally impactful, and I was angry and upset about how the world failed these women. Particularly, I think it was in Polly's life story, where a lot of it was set in London and set around places that I know really, really well. And obviously those places have changed so much since 1888, but it was just so horrible to think about like the horrible things that happened to women on the streets that I know so well and walk every day. And that horrible things still happen to women on those streets, and that particular aspect of the book upset me quite a lot. Not enough to cry. As I said, I don't really cry at books, but it was definitely something that I found very emotionally impactful. A book that made me happy, on the other hand, was Girls Who Slay Monsters by Ellen Ryan. This is a beautifully illustrated children's book about Ireland's goddesses, and how often when we look into Irish mythology and history, it is the male figures who are of the most prominence and significance. But actually Ireland has this unbelievably rich history and mythology of female characters, female figures. And through the stories of these women, we can find so much inspiration for our own modern lives, inspiration to be strong, to make a difference, to have kindness and empathy for others. I also thought the illustrations that accompany this book, they were done by Shona Shirley MacDonald. They were absolutely beautiful, and I love how she depicted some of these figures in ways that we hadn't seen them depicted before, that felt very modern and new and fresh. I had such a cozy reading experience with this as well. I read it in one sitting, which was a proper like evening in, fairy lights on, candle, cup of tea, snacks, like ultimate cozy reading evening, and it brought me a lot of joy reading this one. The next question is my favorite book to screen adaptation that I've seen this year, and I am so bad at this question because I never watch anything. Like, I am really bad at being up to date with like new movies that are coming out, and particularly like new TV shows that are coming out. Like, I'm always behind the times. There are so many adaptations that I wanted to see but I haven't seen. So Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, I haven't seen yet. The new Little Mermaid film, which of course is an adaptation of a Hans Christian Andersen book, I haven't read that. I haven't finished Daisy Jones and the Six. I kind of got bored of Daisy Jones and the Six. So the answer I'm going to give is actually Heartstopper. So most people watched this last year. I didn't do that because, as I said, I'm behind the times. I only watched it this year. I thought it was lovely, fantastic, gorgeous. And as soon as the new season comes out, I will watch that immediately, I promise. The next question is your favorite video that you've made so far this year. And like, do I have one? No. I have been super relaxed about making content this year. Like, I've just been kind of doing it as and when I can. And I feel like I'm definitely doing it like for me now. Like, I'm doing it because I really love having this like video diary of my reading life, and by extension my broader life. Like, when I watch back my old videos, I can really like remember like who I was at that time, what my life was like, what was going on, and I love having that, and I want to continue having that. I do really appreciate and enjoy and love this little community we have of like people that watch my videos consistently, and I'm so like grateful for you, whether you have been here just this year or you've been like watching me for years and following like that journey with me. Like, I'm so grateful for you being here. But I think I've stopped trying to make stuff because I think that's what people want. Like, I'm kind of just doing stuff for me, and hopefully like you enjoy that. I've only made about 20 videos so far this year, which is definitely fewer videos than I've made in previous years. But if I had to pick something that I was super proud of, like, I'm really happy with all of the content that I put out every year for the Irish Readathon. Like, I love that Aoife and I and the various co-hosts we've had over previous years have created this community of Irish creators and readers, or people who are just kind of interested in Irish writing. Maybe it's been a way of you like connecting with your family, or just learning more about a subsection or nationality that you are interested in. And I love that we have this kind of wealth of like recommendations videos that we've built up over the years. Like, I think that's really fucking cool. And I'm really pleased with a lot of the content that I put out for the Irish Readathon in March. So, you know, Irish non-fiction books, Irish children's and young adult books, Irish classics. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I put out in March that I was really pleased with. And the final question is the most beautiful book that you have got this year. And for me, that is A Poet for Every Day of the Year, edited by Ali Aziri. So this is a collection of lots of different poets, introducing you to a new one for every single day of the year. I haven't hauled this one yet, and I did acquire it like, you know, halfway through the year, but I'm not sure I necessarily will read this in the sense of reading like one a day. Like, I feel like I would probably read a few of these in one go. I haven't really been that interested in collecting these very beautiful collections that Ali Aziri has put together. Like, there's lots of different ones. There's like a poem for every day of the year, a poem for every night of the year, etc. I do have the Shakespeare for every day of the year, and I haven't been too like focused on collecting these, but I found this one in a charity shop for like £2, and I was like, yes, you're coming home with me, because it's also in like completely perfect condition, and yeah, it was too beautiful for me to have left. So that is it. That is my mid-year book freakout tag. I hope your reading year is going well. If there's anything you want to share about your reading year, like your favorite book, your favorite new author, has there been a book that disappointed you? I would love to hear it down in the comments. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I've mentioned, do let me know. If you want to let me know that you are here but you don't have anything specific to say, leave me a stack of books so I know that you have been here. That is it for me today. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.